couldn't think of a better way to begin the show than bringing on a couple of guys who definitely know all about that, and I kind of wanted to set the stage for what we're going to be talking about today. I want all of you to imagine, and on the show we talk all about health and wellness, and we've talked a little bit about Orange Theory and going and working out and creating some good muscle confusion and getting some good weightlifting in and building your body the way you want it to be. Well, one of the things, if you ask any personal trainer, one of the best and most important things after a solid workout, so just as important as a solid workout, is getting a good night's rest. Because you've actually torn your muscles, the cells in your muscles a little bit, and it's time for you to go to sleep and let them heal. If you don't have a good night's rest, then it doesn't heal, and you don't get the results of that great workout. Now let's also switch over. Let's say you're not working out. You just want to have a good night's rest so you don't fall asleep at your will. If you're a trucker, if you happen to just need to be alert, and you're the victim of that 5-hour energy at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. A lot of times that comes from not having a good night's rest, and a lot of times the cause of that is sleep apnea. So I'm really honored to be able to have with us today Dave Gergen, who you're not officially a doctor, is that correct?
No, I'm not a doctor.
Okay, so in our last show I called him Dr. Dave Gergen, so I wanted to make that correction on the air. I'm sure he didn't mind. However, you know, in all honesty, we got to share it's Dave Gergen. But Dave creates about 75% of the sleep apnea products out there that are not CPAPs. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's oral appliance therapy.
Okay, oral
appliance
therapy. So they work nationwide, and so keep a pen and paper handy, because we're going to be letting you know where you can go to websites where you can actually get analyzed and find out if you qualify for this type of treatment. And I think all of you are going to want to qualify if you think you're not sleeping well as a result of sleep apnea. So also we're joined, very honored to be able to be joined here by Nick Lowry, who is a Hall of Fame nominee from the Kansas City Chiefs. So definitely welcome on the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
You bet. As he was coming on, he was talking about how we keep our studio about as cold as David Letterman's, and so all of a sudden I feel small. I'm not as great as David Letterman.
I got to kick when I played for the Jets. I got to kick field goals on 53rd Street with Danny DeVito in the backfield.
Oh wow!
And then the next year we did it inside. But people, if you look carefully, people tend to have sweaters on, if not coats. It is cold as hell. I guess maybe remember how Richard Nixon would have those little beads of sweat when with the lights. So David Letterman
decided he would never have that. So keep in mind, if you're ever going to be a guest on David Letterman or here, you bring your jacket. All right, well, definitely welcome, Derek. Appreciate you joining us as well as Dave. So you have a special message to share today, and first of all, how does someone know if they have sleep apnea? What are some of the first signs?
Some of the first signs are a morning headache, daytime fatigue if you grow tired during the day. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, that's another one. If you're getting up all the time and you're just waking up in the middle of the night, that's a sign you have sleep apnea. If you wake up gasping for air, like maybe even a dream state, you're just like dreaming that you can't get air, you're drowning, that's sleep apnea as well. If you have weight gain, all of a sudden you just start gaining weight over the last few years, it's a good chance it's sleep apnea, because what happens is the body slows everything down. Your cells aren't getting oxygen, so oxygen desaturation, which slows down, the cells don't overturn as much, you gain weight. Another sign that you have sleep apnea or could have sleep apnea is erectile dysfunction, because when you hit level 4 sleep, the body retests itself, and if you don't get there and you don't retest yourself, well, it begins to shut down, and that's part of sleep apnea.
Gotcha. Which is obviously part of a balanced life. So also I want to talk a little bit about Dave. He's a very weighty figure out there in the business community. He's the national director of the dental division of American Sleep and Breathing Academy, and also in 2004 was identified as Arizona Businessman of the Year. So definitely some heavy hitters that we have here between the Hall of Fame nominees and some of the the bigger businessmen that are out there. So now let's give a website for those who. What would be the best website if anybody wants to follow along while we're on the show?
Well, the website will be proplayersleep.com, and that's a website that we created to get the awareness out there, because we're working so close with these former NFL greats. We're screening at the NFL PA meetings around the country to the former players chapter, and we are also part of the Living Heart Foundation's HOPE program. Is sponsored by the NFLPA, and the HOPE program is going to be done in hospitals during the playoffs of this year all the way to the Super Bowl. And it's called the HOPE program and the Super Bowl Symposium. It's going to be an all-over body testing for former athletes.
Absolutely, that's great. Now, speaking of former athletes and current athletes, just because you're in shape doesn't mean that you don't have sleep apnea. You know, if you find yourself having some of these symptoms, you may want to get yourself checked out, even if you're currently about as fit as you can imagine. If you're still having some of those symptoms, that's exactly why you should get tested. So that website one more time?
It's proplayersleep.com, and you can click on your favorite players page, and it'll take you to a sleep test. You just fill out the information, and a sleep company by the name of Complete Sleep will get a hold of you and send a unit right to your house, and then they'll talk to you, they'll work through your insurance. It's covered under medical insurance.
Which is great, because there's a lot of people think that since this is a dental appliance, that you may or may not get coverage, but there's a good chance that you would have coverage through your standard insurance.
Absolutely, because we're heading into December here, and pretty much everybody or many people have met their deductibles.
Absolutely. And if you haven't and you need to, I mean, you don't know what's going to go on with the whole Obamacare thing next year, so go to that website, pay your standard deductible before it raises to $2,000 to $20,000. Just kidding, but you never know what's going to happen.
You may go down.
You could, you actually may be one that, but in other words, the unknown. So take advantage of the known and go to the website and get this taken care of before the end of the year.
Can I add a couple things about
Absolutely.
sleep apnea? Number one is all of us try to be objective about our lives in our wakeful moments, but when we're asleep, we by definition can't. And just because we're snoring does not mean we're getting deep sleep. If you're lucky enough to have a girlfriend who's attentive or a wife that notices this, it's an indication. The statistics are something about 5%, but it's probably more like 10% with NFL players that are big during their careers. Even myself as a kicker, I'm 6'4", 225.
Sure.
As you get older, you get more fat and you get more tissue in your breathing cavity. As you lie back, your tongue tends to cut off your sleep, and the fat and all that material gets a little bit less, shall we say, tight. And so the great thing about David's device is it helps make sure that you have better breathing for that. The best example I can give is somebody who had been recently playing in the NFL, Reggie White, one of the great people in the history of the NFL, great human being, great Christian, and he died in his sleep from sleep apnea. It's something that can happen to any of us, and people like Mark Walzak, who is going to be on the show today, who's a great advocate himself here, he used to play for the Cardinals, are passionate about this because literally we're saving lives.
Absolutely. And if any of you are surprised that sleep apnea could cause death, if you know anything about how sleep apnea works, is that you're just not getting enough oxygen. And think about if you had anywhere from 6 to 8 hours during waking daytime where your oxygen intake could be down as low as 65% or maybe zero for a little while until you finally take that deep breath. If you get to that health point in your life where it's a little bit touch and go, you could see where somebody could just drop off.
And the other thing is, I'm speaking for myself, I have, according to David in our wonderful tests, I have mild sleep apnea, but oxygenation is a big issue for me. And so, obviously, I think you tend to notice when you're getting good sleep and you're not. The more intense your lifestyle, the more you have to make good decisions, the more you want to react well in traffic, and the more diverse your life is, the more rest makes a huge difference. So this is something that we put aside, we don't think about, and thank God people like Mark Walzak and David are taking leadership to make sure that people are aware of it. We literally can save some lives out there.
Absolutely. The term self or well-being comes to my mind. I actually heard a commercial on, yes, a competitor show. I had listened to other people's shows, and they were talking about a pill that you could take. It was a holistic pill. It was supposed to be really good for you, but it was supposed to give you a sense of well-being, and it's an anti-stress pill. And I thought, you know, what better way to have a sense of well-being than just getting a good night's rest? I mean, we all know what that feeling is when you've had a good night's rest. You don't need to take drugs. You don't need to take pills. Just get a good night's rest. So, Dave, tell us a little bit about how the apparatus works when you put it in your mouth.
Okay. It's very easy. It just pops in your mouth. It holds the mandible in a protruded position, which keeps the airway open, because the mandible is
lower jaw.
The lower jaw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In English?
Yeah, in English, okay. It keeps the tongue in a forward position, so the tongue can't fall back into the airway. Nick was right about that. The tongue is what causes the airway to collapse, and that's called obstructed sleep apnea. And if you're right about this, if you don't get to level 4 sleep, the body won't secrete growth hormone. If you're not getting growth hormone, you're not staying healthy. So that is only excreted in level 4 sleep, and apneics don't get there.
You can also talk to any psychologist who talks about that level 4 sleep. Level 4 sleep, for those of you who haven't studied sleep very much, is actually where you finally you get into your dream state. You actually, from a psychological standpoint, you're finally letting all that psychological stress of the day. It's kind of like when you defrag your computer, that everything finally inside of the hard drive is put back to where it should be. That's that level 4 sleep state, and if you're not getting that sleep state, you're also not just physically struggling. You're also, from a psychological standpoint, there's a reason why you feel stressed and not rested.
Psych 101. I only took one psychology course in college, but one of the first things you study is if you want to get somebody crazy, wake them up in random ways every single night, and you can drive them crazy pretty quickly. So think about that. We do it to ourselves as we get older, because unfortunately we aren't in charge completely of our sleep. We have to take some proactive measures, and this is one of them.
That's right, Nick. You know, the military uses sleep deprivation as a form of getting information out of the prisoners around the world. That's one of their tools they use to extract information, is sleep deprivation. And Nick's right. We're doing it to ourselves if we don't get treated.
And, you know, we take that self-medication, so we think, how much do you pay for coffee to keep yourself awake? You know, I think we've seen little calculators, how much does a latte cost and how much are you paying over time. And I can guarantee you within a couple months, if you're a coffee drinker, over a couple months, you've more than paid your deductible, and over a year, you've more, even if you had no insurance, you know, you've paid for that in a year period, and you tortured yourself the whole time. You might as well just go in there, get it taken care of, have a good sense of well-being, and your family will love you for it.
David and I have this goal, is to reduce Starbucks stock by 50%. We're going to have people sleeping so well, they drive past that beautiful, alluring Lorelei sign of Starbucks and go, who's that?
Exactly.
I don't need that today.
Oh, Nick, you're funny. I love
Sorry,
it.
Starbucks. But hey, there is a better alternative. So with that, it looks like it's about time for break. So when we come back, we're going to be talking more about will you not need the caffeine that you used to need, and you know, why is it that your overall health will improve. So this is Kurt Wilhelm, the host of the Ageless Living Show here on World Talk Radio, Voice America, joined by Derek Kennard and David, who would not be possible without him. He has literally saved lives, and in my opinion, has saved families, and it saved a lot of marriages. So if you want to have all of that done for you as well, don't go away. We'll be right back when we come back from break.